live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. And everyone, welcome back into the program. If you are completely new, congratulations. You get a slightly downgraded yet slightly upgraded version of the program because just yesterday before recording this, new computer, new everything. So turns out setting up all this stuff is not the most complicated thing in the world. But if your brain is running like molasses, it's not as easy as you would think. So the visuals are a little bit, shifty, and hopefully the audio all works out. Nathan assures me it's all going to be okay. I believe him. I have my blanket. We're okay. We are okay. So with that being said, computeramerica.com, speaking of safety blankets, that can be yours. Computeramerica.com is where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, show notes, articles, videos, podcast, and more. Anything that Computer America does, you can find it on the site. And please don't make fun of us. Yes, I think it's time to bite the bullet. It's time to change out the little blue bird for the black X. So, or white X on black background. Whatever it may be. Not as catchy in my opinion, but yeah, I feel like the Twitter logo is going the way of the dodo. So everyone, social media links, all that and more at computeramerica.com. And also there, very important, by the time that you hear this, you will of course have access to the show notes. The show notes will have everything, including a link to popzara.com. That's of course our guest site. And you can find everything there. And of course, anything that we talk about, articles, reviews, just anything that we mention on today's program will be in one convenient place. So if you're driving, if you're busy, don't worry about it. We can, of course, get your back by having the show notes up and posted. So with that being said, let's go ahead and bring Nathan on and, hey, have fun with it. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back onto the program. Nathan Evans, managing editor of Popzara.com. Nathan, how you doing? How you been?
Hey, Ben, how's it going? And by the way, congratulations on the new hardware.
Thank you. Yeah, it happens once in a decade, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's it's squeaky clean. I told everyone I know that it smells like plastic and power. It's fun getting new hardware. You don't do it often, but the kind of like moving into a new house. The moving pains are you're excited, but at the same time it's like, oh, I got to do all of this over again. But fresh starts are good, right?
Well, I'll say this: when it happens, it happens. Mm-hmm. So that's how you know it happens.
Yes, that's wise circular logic you got going there.
Yes,
that's very good.
Circular logic is the best logic.
Absolutely, supposedly. But now, with that being said, so the viewers of the video can see, of course, popzara.com behind me. But Nathan, before we get going, why don't you go ahead and tell the nice folks about what you and your team try to accomplish over there?
Well, saving the world, all that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But no, doing it through pop culture, right? Doing it through a little bit of a smorgasbord of movies, games, books, a lot of stuff like that. No politics, of course, because we all need a break from that right now, especially for the next 2 years. No, I mean, we have a little green dinosaur. It's our little mascot. I mean, what's not to love?
No,
yesterday's news today.
It's certainly a lot of fun, and you guys cover a lot of stuff. I mean, surprisingly, no one's talking about Meg 2, but yeah, you can of course find
it's there somewhere.
Yeah, right here. You can find the review for Meg 2, stuff like that. And it actually got a yay. I'm surprised it's not an A. Surprised.
Well, the thing about it is that I think you have to leverage expectations when you watch a schlocky movie about like multiple megalodons emerging from the subterranean, water. But no, the first, I mean, like I said, we live all we've talked about this summer is Barbieheimer, Barbie and Oppenheimer, Barbie. Nothing else. Like even other decent movies, like even Indiana Jones or Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning. Like nothing. They all fell to the wayside because of Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
it's a little crazy.
Well, I truly believe a big portion of that comes down to there's a strike going on, and no one is allowed to go. No actors are allowed to go out there and push their new projects. So the last one that could before the strike was Barbie and Oppenheimer, and like it's kind of like feasting off the crust of the bread,
Did I talk to you about this? I had a theory about why Barbie and Oppenheimer did so well because of the strike.
No.
Basically, they couldn't put their foot in their mouth. So because of the strike, because of the SAG and the writer's strike, they weren't allowed to go out there and promote the films. So you had movies like Barbie, which I think is Warner Brothers. Then you had Oppenheimer, which I forget who'd released Oppenheimer. Was it Universal? I forget. But they would never in a billion years ever allow their marketing to sort of commingle like the way they did. Had it none. So you didn't have any stars out there embarrassing themselves. You didn't have any horrible like runway interviews like, oh, Oppenheimer has meant so much to me forever. I grew up playing with Barbie dolls. You had none of that. You had some almost completely organic, like grassroots marketing emerge that somehow entangled Barbie with Oppenheimer together. And it just created this sort of magic peanut butter and jelly that people genuinely liked these movies. Like Barbie in particular, which I haven't seen yet, but Barbie in particular just surpassed Super Mario Brothers to be the biggest movie of the year. And it also surpassed the Batman films to become Warner Brothers' biggest movie of all time. Wow. Like that's impressive.
I know that people often complain, and people complain all the time, but people often complain about nothing new, nothing original, but I gotta say the farming of the old nostalgia and the old IP and just kind of bringing, like, they had like a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, kind of come back around. They have Barbie come back around. Like there's a lot of I guess kind of pent up nostalgia and excitement for those old IPs. As much as people want something new and original, not quite what the box office says.
Well, it's funny because certainly Oppenheimer is not part of some IP or some existing IP.
I've heard about Oppenheimer before. It's part of an existing IP.
Wasn't he from the MCU?
Yeah,
no, his superpower is knowledge and depression. But what's funny is that Barbie, for example, up until Barbie was part of a multi-billion-dollar franchise. It was part of Toy Story, right?
That's right.
And Barbie was actually a main character in fact, Barbie and Ken were main characters in Toy Story 3.
2 or 3, right?
3. She was in 2. It was very funny. And she and Ken, of course, Ken was played by Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton, amazing in Toy Story 3, by the way. So it's like Barbie's a known entity, but the fact is the movie's controversial with certain crowds. I get this, but these movies don't make this much money, are this beloved, without some fire behind the smoke. I plan on catching. I want to watch it, make up my own mind.
Right.
But yeah, but I think in Japan, there was something similar that happened. You've heard of Hayao Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli?
Yeah.
So he's come out of retirement for the 400th time, and he made a new movie. I forget the name of the Japanese, but I think it's The Boy and the Heron is going to be the US name. It's supposedly, I'm doing air quotes, supposedly his final animated movie. He's 90 years old, so it might be.
Someone needs to tie him to the fridge or something. Keep him in retirement.
Keep him alive, like put him in cryogenics and thaw him out every 5 years. But he released a film in Japan, had zero marketing, no trailer, no stills, no synopsis, nothing. You want to know about his movie? You go and see his movie. And I thought to myself, I wish more companies would do this. Like, don't bombard me with like stories and how great it is and marketing. Just let me enjoy it. Just let me come to Jesus, come to Barbie, so to speak. Let me see it.
But also I've definitely seen movies that a lot of people, like, it comes out and people are like, oh, that actually released, or oh, that's out. Like, even without, maybe the US market's just a bit different than the Japanese market, because if you have bad marketing, no one's going to see your movie. Just no one knows about it. There's so much too many flashing bright pictures on TV.
Exactly. Like, and I think we've come to this new we've come to this new reality where companies don't know how to market a film. Like, I'll be honest with you, I genuinely thought Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning was going to be like the smash of the summer. You can't ask for better marketing than that movie.
Yeah.
Like that was all over the place. It was exciting, but I think
if I have to watch that jump that Tom Cruise did off the cliff with the motorcycle one more time, I'm gonna puke. That video was everywhere. It was like, did you know he actually?
It was
did that?
everywhere.
Yeah.
It was over there. And the only I think the problem with the film, and I saw the film and I liked it a lot. It's not the best one. I think Fallout, the last one, was the best one, but it was exciting. It was definitely worth it. It was beautiful. I recommend it to anybody. But the problem is you just showed your best bits, right? And I think in the year after Top Gun, where Top Gun was a phenomenon, I think maybe we expected too much. We expect lightning to strike twice in the same spot. Doesn't work like that. But I think it's exciting. I think anytime you have this much buoyancy for anything, and another thing, the success of all these films has caused AMC to retreat from their horrible decision they made a while ago to start charging a surcharge for certain seats. We talked about that. You know what? That was a bad idea.
That idea is actually very common in Europe. I didn't know that, but that's pretty par for the course in European theaters, that you pay extra for the premium seats.
Look, we fought a revolutionary war to get away from that. Okay, like if King George wants to pay for his hotty-toddy seat, he can pay for his hotty-toddy seat. You know what? But in America, L3
freedom
is worth as much as A2.
Freedom for all. It's the guy that got there 45 minutes early. And
to be fair, people like me are why we have assigned seating, because people like me back in the day would buy a ticket for a movie and then sneak into other movies and just occupy seats. So I apologize, but I'll say this. Roger Ebert, years and years ago, wrote about the best seats in a theater. And I believed him. I think he said it was like center left was the best optimum. This was before curved screens. This was before IMAX. This was before studio seating, stadium seating.
Yeah.
And to be fair, if you have bad eyes and it doesn't work, but the fact is, when you find your favorite seat, you find it. Like, you got to experiment a little bit. I would recommend to the audience, get there early and sort of practice sitting your butt in different seats to see what you think, especially in IMAX, because you don't want to get a bad seat. You want to find out, where your huckleberry is.
Right.
You'll find it.
So, actually, this whole conversation can kind of tie into one of the stories that you actually did link me. And ladies and gentlemen, for those who are new to the segment, Nathan sends over a couple stories and you just give us a few things to talk about. And this one actually ties in with Barbie, because you sent a story from Variety about Barbie and Gran Turismo, which, by the way, completely out of left field, that a video game movie, it's not a Halo movie, it's not a Doom movie, it's not, something that's even like another Final Fantasy movie or something like that. It's not something that's like, oh my God, amazing, but Gran Turismo, the thing about cars and car driving, they turned it into a movie, which I don't know how they could, but talk about this article that you sent over.
Okay. First of all, are you a fan of Gran Turismo, the series?
Growing up, I was more into Forza. I was definitely way more into Forza. Yep.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Forza.
I don't buy it.
No.
I don't buy it at all. Our good mutual friend Herman is ecstatic over Gran Turismo, the game. But the Gran Turismo movie, it has a technology connection. That's why I put it on here. First of all, this is part of Sony's new ploy to incentivize and monetize every one of their IPs. We saw it last year with Uncharted. We're going to see it with Jak and Daxter. We're going to see it with everything. Every Sony IP out there. I think Twisted Metal has a show right now on Peacock. I haven't heard anything good about it. But then again, it stars Anthony Mackie. That's usually the kiss of death. So I'm sorry. It's true. Prove me wrong. But no, the interesting thing about Gran Turismo is that when people say Groundhog's Day, that's shorthand for like a time loop movie.
Yeah.
And a couple months ago on Popzara, we did a podcast about an old movie that a lot of people have started rediscovering called The Last Starfighter. Have you heard of it?
No, The Last Starfighter.
Now, I guarantee you 80% of your audience is like yelling at you through their screens right now.
Are you saying it's big nerd culture?
No, it's definitely like one of those milestones of 80s children that you know what The Last Starfighter is. And if you don't know what The Last Starfighter is, you will know what The Last Starfighter is. So this is a movie that came out, 84? And it's about a kid who lives it's a quintessentially 80s. He lives in a town of nowhere in the middle of nowhere. He's really good at this arcade game. Turns out, the arcade game is actually a recruitment system that he's recruited to become, a starfighter and help save the world, basically.
So like Ender's Game, but
a little game. Actually, this movie came out before Ender's Game, the book.
Right.
Yeah, so it predates it. So The Last Starfighter is shorthand for what Gran Turismo is. Like it's very similar. That Gran Turismo. It's based on somewhat based on a real story that a kid learns to drive a high-tech vehicle by playing the video game.
Yeah, the Gran Turismo, the Forza, like they're racing games, but they always try to emphasize the realistic acceleration, the handling of the car, the wet conditions, stuff like that. So I guess they
never even called it a game. They called it a simulator, right? That was their thing. And I know the director was Kazunori Yamauchi. No relation to Yamauchi of Nintendo fame. But the idea was that, he would admit to you that his game is dry as toast. Like it has no story. Right. It's not really about that. It's about physics. It's about this. And I think what was the last one? Gran Turismo 7 on the PlayStation 4 and 5 is pretty spectacular. But you can't really make a movie out of that. So what you do is you make a movie about playing the game, which is pretty brilliant. I will say this: the director, what was his name? Do you have his name?
Gran Turismo.
What is it?
I can probably.
I got to give you his name. I got to give you his name because I don't want to mispronounce it. Blomkamp. So Neil Blomkamp.
Yeah, Blomkamp.
So this is interesting because Neil Blomkamp got his start doing commercials and everything, and he was supposed to be the director of the Halo film, Peter Jackson's Halo. And if you go back and read about the history of this, it's very interesting. Where Weta, the special effects company in New Zealand, the Peter Jackson's, they did the mock-ups, they did the weapons, they did the Warthog, they did everything. Everything was ready to go, and something happened. Halo didn't happen, so that was all repurposed into the movie District 9.
Yep.
And which probably worked out best for everybody. And eventually Halo would become another mediocre TV series on, I forget whatever one of the streaming things.
Oh, that was on Paramount Plus?
Oh, it was a terrible show. Yuck. But anyway, so it's kind of ironic that he's back into the video game mode as Gran Turismo. Haven't seen the movie yet. I've heard mixed things about it, but I'll make up my own mind. But I like the actors. I like the idea of it. So the reason I sent it to you is because we talked about box office. This is really interesting because this is how technology influences people, and this is a good rule of thumb for people who who go to these websites and they just absorb everything and they take it as data. See, we talk about AI all the time.
Yeah.
So this is a good example of why AI itself is flawed. So for example, the story is Gran Turismo was the #1 film this weekend, right? But it wasn't. It really wasn't.
Huh?
It was Barbie. So the reason Gran Turismo was the #1 film this weekend is that the way the accounting goes, they took the money that Gran Turismo made this weekend, which was about $15 million, and they factored in pre-release dates that go back to a month. So they've collected dates that had nothing to do with this weekend, and they factored those into the total to make like 17.4 million. But in reality, more people saw Barbie this weekend.
Yeah, right here. 3.9 million it generated in weeks of special pre-show screenings. I didn't even know they really charge for pre-show or pre-show.
Oh, they do.
Screening.
They do. If you go to Fandango, right, you can see opportunities. Movies will come out weeks before. They'll have special screenings of them. They'll have all sorts of events. Oh yeah. So what they do is most companies do this, but they only really do this on the Thursday before it opens, not weeks before. So if AI were to scrape data points from IMDb or whatever, the data points would say Gran Turismo was the #1 film. That implies more people saw the movie. Didn't happen. Just didn't happen. The data is incorrect because the data was strategically manipulated for marketing purposes.
Right.
And I wanted everyone to hear this because this is very important that you say data can't be wrong.
They had, I'm sure the studio already had printed out, or not printed out, but produced commercials saying #1 in the box office this week or whatever. And, they had to make that true. They had to make that true.
It happened again earlier this year with another movie that also bombed. A fun movie, by the way, Dungeons and Dragons.
I watched that. I loved it.
It's fun. It's fun. One of my movie editors, Ethan Brem, it's his favorite film of the year. I wouldn't go that far, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun, but the marketing worked against it. The closest analog I can say to what you're talking about happened about 20 years ago with the Harry Potter books. The Harry Potter books eventually helped birth a new genre, the YA genre. Mm-hmm. And the reason we have the YA genre as opposed to kids' books is because Harry Potter books were so overwhelmingly bestsellers that they denied #1 bestseller tags to every other author out there. No more Stephen King, no more Michael Connelly, no more John Grisham. They all debuted at #2 because of Harry Potter. So bestseller lists had to create a new genre, YA, so they could put these not quite children's books, but not quite adult books in there. Again, it's all a system of marketing. It's all about how do we trick people into thinking something's true when it's not true, because it's true technically.
You're gonna say there's no Santa and the Easter Bunny's not real next. I don't know where I
wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I've never been to the North. Have you been to the North Pole?
I've never been to the moon either. No.
No, but the fact is that we are going into a world of AI. And again, AI is all based on data points. It's all based on data sets. And the thing is, we have to be very conscious to question the stuff that comes at us. Not because no one gives a crap that Gran Turismo was or wasn't the best movie. I was sorry, the most popular movie this weekend. No one gives a crap. But what happens though is that we start getting a little lazy and we start thinking in terms of this. And it could be, okay, maybe it's a movie today, maybe tomorrow it's politics, maybe the next week it's something else. And you just have to be really aware of this stuff, because I promise you, the people that get paid money to do this, Ben, they don't give a crap that you're informed, as long as you're informed the way they inform you. So you just have to be open-minded about it.
Yes, there's a lot to be said for trusting your source. It's not even about checking your sources. It's about trusting the sources that you consume, because your sources can be absolutely correct, but depending, like you said, on the way that you frame something, completely different meaning. So it makes a lot of sense. Let's switch gears a little bit here. So we talked about Barbie into Gran Turismo, which is a movie based on video game. Let's transition a little bit more into video games. And we're going to just jump right into some of the miscellaneous Starfield. And I want to start off because I just found this article. Didn't even know what happened, but it's hilarious. Starfield leaker. I guess someone had pre-release copies of Starfield, and he was arrested for felony theft after attempting to sell the early copies.
You dummy!
As some, you don't really, and you're in the same business. Not that this guy had an NDA after stealing things, but companies spend a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of effort to make sure that if they release something, they want it to go as smoothly as possible. They don't want pre-cuts. They don't want, the whole game being leaked in some cases. They don't want that happening. So they'll spend a lot of their time taking down videos online. They'll spend their time tracking down individuals that have stolen copies. I don't know what this guy thought he was going to get away with, but selling them for $200 a piece was probably a dumb idea.
Well, it's also stupid because they're not playable. Like, that's the thing. Like, there's no discs in those things.
Right. Like, they have a code that you connect. They have a code that you connect to the server, and then you download the information. So yeah, it's one of those. Yeah.
What a dumbass. Yeah. But I'll say this. But this is going to be interesting because what we're seeing is the end of optical media. At some point, it's happening. Like, let me say this. On the Popzara website, not to self-indulge, but you see the picture of Bruce Lee. So we had a nice chat with the director of a Bruce Lee documentary, and what he does, he works for a company in Britain called Arrow Films, and they remaster stuff. Now, you probably heard of Shout Factory, right? Shout Factory is really big. Mm-hmm. They're in America. They changed their name to Shout Studios, by the way. Stupid name. Put it back to Shout Factory. Factory's better. So, but anyway, it turns out these companies do genre films. They do restorations. They make a lot of money on physical media, right? They make a lot of it, like most of their money. Same with vinyl, right? But the problem is vinyl, physical media, you need to have an established media. Like people are going to want to go out and pay $300 for your box set. They want to do this. The problem with new games, people just want it cheap. They want it cheap. You're not going to get someone to pay $300 for Starfield Game of the Year edition when they don't know if the game's any good. Right. So we're talking about Game Pass. Like Starfield will be available on Game Pass this weekend. So you can play the game if you have Game Pass without spending $70 to try it out.
That's the new trend.
So, but you look in the physical box, you say, I love physical media. Well, too bad. You can't get it. Like if you go to the store and buy Starfield for your Xbox Series X, sorry, PlayStation, it's not on PlayStation, but there's no disc in there. It's a code.
Like they don't even have the little booklets that used to come with games that told you like synopsis and little concept art. Nothing.
Yeah,
it's sad.
It's sort of vestigial at this point. Like we want the feeling of the box. We want to open the box. We want to take the box, but there's really nothing in the box. Like you're just buying a redemption code. And I think at this point, like video game companies you saw with Sony and Microsoft, they both have consoles that don't have optical media. They don't have it, right? So like this is where they're kind of going with this. Although there is a rumor that the next PlayStation, there's going to be an iteration of the PlayStation 5 that does away with the optical disc, but can be added back on via an attachment. I don't know, but it's happening, whether you like it or not. And I ask people who complain, look around you. Like, how many Blu-ray players, DVD players do you actually have in your home? And I was actually shocked, Ben, when I got rid of my old Xbox console. That was it. I don't have any optical media in my home. It's all digital now, which is kind of scary to me.
We, my wife runs a presentation for a church, and she got a new laptop for it. The laptop had no physical media, but the nice folks at the church, not the most tech savvy. So when it came time to play music, they would hand her a CD, and it's like, hey, can you play this?
You get a drive though, right? You can buy a drive.
Yeah, and that's what it was. The physical media had to be attached with a USB cable, which is not that big a deal, and you unplug it and you're good to go. But adapting physical media into laptops that don't have it is not hard. It's not the end of physical media to not have it in the PlayStation or the Xbox or PCs. But it's going to be seen as something that's like, oh, of course, it's built in. You're going to have it no matter what. Now it's like, if you want it, go out and get one. Like that's where we're at.
Well, it's also, and you have to look at it's like Moore's law as regulated by storage limits. It's that you have these enormous size, these enormous file sizes on these Blu-ray discs, or these 4K Blu-ray discs. Again, if you watched, we talked about the Bruce Lee movie stuff, those are 4K remasters. Like if you watch the movie on a physical media, you're going to get a better picture quality. You're going to get the bitrate sampling is going to be much better than if you're streaming it even over the best internet you can, simply because, you have more bandwidth available to you. Now, maybe that won't be the case in 5-6 years. Maybe they'll have parity, or maybe we'll all be conditioned to accept lower quality like Spotify, or
maybe we'll be so conditioned to AI at that point, everything's just going to be AI upscaled. It's going to stream to you in 1080p, and then AI upscaled to 16,000. Yeah, 16K.
You mean like DLSS for video, like for watching video, or it could just be there's so much crap out there we don't have time to enjoy it. We're just consuming content, And I think there's a little bit of truth in everything we're talking about. But I also think, if you're a hardcore fan, you will seek out the physical media because you're going to be like that prepper who built a bunker in his backyard, stocked it with tuna fish and Coca-Cola just in case, But I get it. I get it though. I totally understand it and I appreciate it. Like, I'm all for preservation.
There are people that I know that have massive Blu-ray and VHS collections. Big warning I heard about VHS is that the magnetic tape that goes inside a lot of VHS tapes from the 90s is starting to, degauss or something like that. The tape is starting to deteriorate physically, and also the magnetic strip is also starting to wear out. So if you have VHS tapes, pay attention to them. If you want to save them, digitize them. Yeah.
Digitize them while you can. I'll be honest with you, a little controversial what I'm going to say, but sometimes that's the only way you can actually watch something. Like when I grew up at a very different time, like Song of the South was available on VHS, right? It is not available anywhere. Yep. And so, but the only version I've seen of that movie now is like obviously ripped from a VHS tape, right? Now people say, well, why do you want to watch that movie? Well, fast forward to 2023.
And you can't.
I thought, what year did it come out? 1970, 1971? The French Connection. No, yeah. William Friedkin, by the way, R.I.P., the director of The Exorcist and French Connection. He just passed away. It came out that The French Connection was censored by Criterion, right? The digital version that you can stream, it was edited for language because it said naughty words. And I thought to myself, well, here we are again. Like, again, no trigger warning. Just we're not going to tell you the movie that you love, the movie that won Best Picture Academy Award has now been censored. 1971. So it's not a hard jump from Song of the South to Academy Award-winning Best Picture with Gene Hackman. Like it will happen again, and you probably won't even know it. So, I mean, you're going to have to decide how important it is to preserve this stuff for yourself. But at the end of the day, don't sell empty boxes and try to get away with it because you're dumb.
Yes, that is very, very dumb. And of course, he was arrested on a felony. So good luck playing the game now. No, but let's talk about Starfield real quick. So for everyone out there who's like, why would you even try to sell a game that's going to release in 2 days for hundreds of dollars more than it's worth? It's a really anticipated game. It's a highly anticipated game.
I wonder if this leaker, whatever, the hacker, whatever, not even hacker, he just stole stuff. I'm wondering if that will be his way out of culpability, that he's actually not selling anything. Like, you couldn't have used these products. Like the code itself has no value until it's been redeemed, right? So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Like, you literally cannot sell it beforehand because you can't use the product. Like, it's worthless.
If nothing else, he has, and again, if you're watching the video portion, you can see the picture there. He looks to be about, a couple of the collector's editions and maybe, 15 copies of the game. That would easily bring it up to, let's say, $70. Let's say $2,000 to $3,000 worth of merchandise. I don't know what the cutoff is for a felony theft. At the very least, Nathan, he stole $2,000 worth of stuff. Even if they're useless, they were going to, So
it'll be interesting precedent to see what happens though when you're selling a product though that can't be redeemed. That's all I'm saying. Like, I want to see how this goes.
Are you going to play Starfield? That's the question I want to know.
No, and I'll tell you why though. But it's not anything to do with the game. It's just that I'm not that type of RPG. Like, I watch and enjoy watching Skyrim, which, by the way, can we just be clear? This is technically the follow-up to Skyrim. Yeah. Can we just say that? It's been a long time. It looks pretty spectacular. I was going to say this. A lot is hinging on this game. And I'll tell you why. You and I have talked about a little bit. We've talked about the Microsoft acquisition of Activision, but this game in particular was the focus point of that, because Microsoft bought Bethesda, and almost immediately they cut off multi-platform support for their competitor for their big AAA game. I'll tell you right now, if this game came out on PlayStation 5, it would sell 3 times as many copies on PlayStation 5. No doubt. This is a game that is made for PlayStation, but it's not coming out on PlayStation yet. So if you want to play it, there's a couple options. You can physically buy the game that has no optical media, and you can input the code, or you can download it on PC or Xbox Series X and S, or you can get Game Pass and do the same thing and use it through subscription. So there's options. A lot is riding on this. The future, I think, of Microsoft's hardware ambitions are riding on this game. Like, this is it. This is the biggest game Microsoft has released in a long, long time.
Yeah.
But it seems like this is a game that needs to be multi-platform and is not. So I don't know. We'll see. This is a big test. But can I say something?
Yeah.
That artwork you're looking at, you can't see it if you're listening, but the artwork and the stripes makes Starfield look like an Atari 2600 game. Doesn't it?
Yeah, it does look like a poster for like Galaga or something like that. Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. I've heard good things about it. The editors are very ecstatic about it. I'm sure you'll be playing it too. So
it's almost like on the heels of Baldur's Gate 3, which, I'm with you. I was never really like a huge RPG fan. Like I played through Skyrim and and it was whatever. But Baldur's Gate 3, like it was such a long story. Like I'm still like 110 hours into it and still have like the third act to go. But it's like it's so engaging for that 100 hours that it's not like Diablo where you just run around, killing stuff over and over again. It's not like a competitive shooter. It's not like Counter-Strike Global Offensive where you're, dialed in for the entire time. Like it's like watching a movie. If the movie, if it sounds appealing to you, 140 hours long.
I was going to say, you mean Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings? But But what I was going to tell you is that it's so fascinating to me that here we are in 2023 and we're back to enjoying turn-based RPGs again because we have gone through these cycles. I remember this is the same year Final Fantasy 16 comes out.
Yep.
And Final Fantasy 16 does not resemble a classic Final Fantasy game in almost any way that matters, specifically the combat.
Real-time combat instead of turn-based.
Yeah. And here we are in Baldur's Gate, which is only the third Baldur's Gate game in 25 years or 20 years. And it is so complexly a D&D game, so absolutely a tabletop how do you pronounce it?
Simulacrum. Simulacrum.
Yeah. And so, but for people who love it, and this is so interesting to me because the DNA of people who play video games and review them, a lot of it is shared with D&D players. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
I am not one of those people. My DNA is Pac-Man and Donkey Kong. But I'll say this. So I find it fun to watch the overwhelmingly positive reviews for Baldur's Gate and Diablo. But if you are reviewing Baldur's Gate, here's a little PSA from your friendly neighborhood editor. If you're reviewing Baldur's Gate, I want you to remember that not everybody likes Dungeons and Dragons. So when you say it's the best game ever, it's the greatest, everyone needs to play, you have to be very cautious. That's like saying you love like R-rated hentai from Japan, and it will appeal to people who like Bambi.
I think that when I say it's one of the best games in
I've heard nothing but
it's more like if you've never really played a turn-based RPG game, this is one of the best that you could choose from.
Oh, absolutely.
So
yeah. See, that's the thing. I can sit back and appreciate it the same way I can appreciate like Madden, right? I don't play sports games, but I know a good one when I see it. Right. And my editor, Corey Gallagher, he talks about this all the time. Is like, we live in the best time for games. Like bad games are rare. And when they're bad, they're really bad, like catastrophic bad, but they're very rare. Like most games are decent. Even bad ones are decent. We've come to that point now where it's really hard to find a bad game.
It's a good time to play video games. And also, you touched on it just slightly. For those who have their head in the sand, the new trend is video games now cost $70, which, if just keeping up for inflation, is justified. But more so, the games that, at least the ones that I've paid $70 for, are worth the $70, luckily.
Can I say this? Back in 1994, right? I remember when the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo were ruling the roost. Like Final Fantasy 3, aka Final Fantasy 6, cost like $80. Like there was Phantasy Star 4 on the Sega Genesis, came with a crappy paper box with Xerox instructions, $100. So I don't want to hear no lip about $70 being too expensive.
It's well deserved. So there you go, Starfield, and as you rightfully mentioned, it will be on Game Pass. So yeah, try it before you buy it.
Exactly. Like try it before you buy it. Watch some videos about it. See if it's your thing. It might be your thing. If it's Skyrim, it's probably certainly going to be your thing.
Yep.
So there you go.
So, and you know what? Let's stick with video games real quick. You mentioned it before the show, and I'm sure a lot of people out there who are really resonating with, back in my day talk that we've been doing.
Back in my day.
Quake 2. Speaking of back in my day. What happened with Quake 2? Because the last time I saw Quake 2, there was like a short demo that was released, showed off the new graphics and everything updated. Did Quake 2 Remaster release, and how is it?
So speaking of another Bethesda game after Starfield, boy, what a summer they're having, huh? Quake 2 Remastered dropped out of nowhere about 2 weeks ago. It just says, here you go. It's available on Game Pass. It's available on every console. Everything is there. I'll say this. We haven't got the review up for it yet. We're running a little late on that, but I'll say this. Quake 2 Remastered look, can I just bloviate a little bit? Quake 2 Remastered is the best remaster of a video game I have ever seen, ever. And that's saying a lot. This is from, oh goodness, was it Night Dive Studios? I forget who did it. They did a very similar awesome remake of remaster of Quake 1 a couple of years back.
Yeah.
The company's known for remastering, but let me say this. I don't want to sit here and pump it too much. But Quake 2 is very interesting. Quake 2 was one of the very first games that was ever designed to be enhanced through expansion cards.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about this Voodoo 3DFX, but it came at a time like a crisis time, 10 years before Crisis, where most people did not have PCs that could handle it. And it was cost prohibitive. So if you wanted to play Quake 2 when it came out, you were either out of luck or you had to play a version that was on the Nintendo 64 or the PlayStation, which were not the same. And by the time the game became available, by the time you started having computers that could play it, we'd kind of moved on. The industry had moved on in very interesting ways. Of course, Bethesda had moved on in one way. id Software had moved on. The industry had been sort of given over to Epic Games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Epic, of course, became that. And we all know what happened with a version of Quake, which became Half-Life, which became Valve.
Yep.
So Quake was always occupied in this weird space where it was played. It was beloved by certain people, but it was more of a tech demo at that point.
Before its time.
No one ever really talked about the gameplay, even though it was sublime, because like you said, a couple of years ago, we had the Quake 2 RTX version, which was great. But what they've done here is they've done like a Criterion Collection version of Quake. Mm-hmm. They haven't remade it. They've remastered it. And I mean this too. They haven't changed the graphics that much. They've improved them.
No, it still looks pretty blocky. Yeah.
But when you see it in action, though, like they fixed it in ways that are subtle, but are quality of life enhancements that make a difference. For example, they've reintroduced AI elements that were gone from that were supposed to be in the original. They've modified the visuals in a way. They've added little details like shadows, muzzle flashes. They've improved models, but they're still pretty much the same. Like
right.
If you look at it, it's for the most part the same. And that's what I'm saying. It's like if you watch Star Wars and you watch like a remastered version, it looks cleaner, it looks more crisp, it looks nicer, but it's still the same. It's not George Lucas going in and dicking with it and having Han shoot first. This is not a remake. This is not Resident Evil 4. This is Quake running better than it's ever run before. And if you have the PC, you can run this thing at 4K. If you have the consoles, you can run this thing at 4K.
It's not the Doom that came out in 2016 where the original Doom was just sprites and this one was a full new game. This is a remaster.
But that's not even touching the surface. We haven't even started about what makes this game good. Like that goes without saying that it runs at 4K or 1440p, or even on the Switch, it runs at 1080p, like 60 frames, 140 frames, whatever. Everything runs as good as your console or a PC is. This runs as good as that. It's cross-platform. If you have a Switch and your friend has a PlayStation 4, you got another friend with an Xbox, or you got PC, it all plays together. It all cross matches. It has all the expansions. It's got a brand new campaign. Like the company, I think it's Machine Games or whatever. Yep. They created a new campaign just for this version. It's super long. It's even better. They even put more enemies. It's like playing Doom again. It's brand new. It's got a vault where it's got game preservation. You could see images. You could see things. Ben, you can even play the E3 demo from 1997. It's on there. And the best part is, if you have Game Pass, you don't have to pay. If you already own Quake 2, you already got this. They give it to you for free. If you buy it, it's $10. I don't understand this thing. I don't understand the logic behind this.
A real labor of passion.
On everything that matters. But the problem is, and because it's been so improved, the game flourishes like it's never flourished before. It feels new. Mm-hmm. It feels new again. Yeah, it looks older, but I don't think old is the right word. I think it looks classic.
Yeah.
Like I said, the technology is caught up to the vision.
There are indie games that are released this year that shoot for the same graphics and don't look as good. Like it's not that the graphics can't be playable. It's just, the video footage that we showed up on the screen did look very clean, very good, very smooth. It looks like a modern play style with classic graphics.
Oh, so I forgot. They, for no reason at all, for giggles, they even included a remastered Nintendo 64 version.
Yes.
Why not?
I saw that.
Why not?
Yeah.
And you can, so if you played the Nintendo 64 version, you struggled with the controls, you can finally enjoy the game. They did the same thing a couple of years ago with Doom 64, same company, where they actually made a classic game better because you can now play it with a real controller. Again, this is sublime. It's cheap. It's probably free. It's mind-bending the value for it. And frankly, this is how you do it. This is how you fix an old game without remaking it. It's how you preserve history. It's why it's educational. But at the end of the day, none of that matters because it's fun and it feels fresh. And I got to tell you,
and it's only $10.
I don't under.
Yeah,
it's only $10. Like, get it. Just get it.
Very, very cool. So let's switch from video games to video games, and let's talk about Nintendo Switch.
And I tried hard to find other stuff. I tried.
No. It's fun. It's good. I think after all the news, this is what I want to talk about at least. Nintendo Switch just passed Wii's lifetime sales in the U.S. And why the quantifier? Why in the U.S.? I'm guessing Japan is the reason.
Because we're at that point now where records are starting to fall, and we don't know how far they're going to fall. Like I talked about Barbie a minute ago. Barbie surpassed Super Mario Brothers as the biggest movie of the year. It surpassed Batman as like the biggest Warner Brothers. We're starting to get these incidental little micro sales milestones because what's happening is the Switch is clearly it's ending its life cycle, but it's not going without a fight. Like it's reaching, and a couple things. We're also seeing that the video console market has certain limitations. Like it has a tapping out point in a way that no other thing has. Like cell phone, we don't know how many cell phones sell in America every year, like billions probably. But with consoles, it seems like 150 million consoles may be sort of the maximal limit of these things, which is still enormous. Like you're talking about like the NES, which was Nintendo's, which was the console that saved the industry, sold like 62 million around the world. But you look at Nintendo's success after that, it's a downward slide. Like the Super Nintendo didn't sell very well. The Nintendo 64 sold even worse. The GameCube sold even worse. Then the Wii came back and brought it back to life. And then you had the Wii U, which was another disappointment. And then you have the Switch, which was the best-selling thing they've almost ever done. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. I actually was a little surprised to learn that the Xbox 360 had outsold the Wii in America. But I think that's another asterisk, where we have to look at the data and think, well, why is that? Did I send any of the information about the Xbox 360? How much it sold to you?
No.
I think it was like how much was it? Like, give me one quick thing. I'll find it for you. So the Xbox 360
sold 47 million units in North America, 85 in the world, or about 86 million.
Part of the reason I think the Xbox 360 outsold the Wii in America was because there was a lot of defective consoles. I think there was Red Ring. I think people were rebuying it. I think there were revisions. But when you get to be this big, it makes a cultural impact. Like the Xbox 360 was a gigantic selling console. The PlayStation 2 remains the best selling console. The Wii was felt. Everybody felt it. And I think the Switch even more so. I think, you bought a brand new PC, you upgraded everything, and you spent more money on this thing than most people spend on mortgages, right? but you could go right now to you can go to Walmart and buy a Switch for $300.
Oh, come on, you gotta at least give the one dinosaur's due. Just say GameStop. Just say GameStop.
Okay, to be fair, Toys R Us does exist as a pop-up.
Okay?
True, but that's not my Jeffrey. NFG. But no, or GameStop, if you want to go and feel ripped off and dirty, you can go buy a used Switch for $295 that has fingerprints.
What a
probably
deal.
Porn on an SD card, somebody's homemade porn. But I'll say this, but you could go right now and spend $300 for a brand new Switch, and you can play the best game of the year for a lot of people, Zelda, or you can play Quake Remastered. Like, yes, the technology is antiquated by any stretch of the imagination, but you have a console that is so well supported, so well stacked. Like, you will find something, you will enjoy your experience on it. There's no question about it. You'll have a good time. But you could also buy a PlayStation 5 and probably have similar. So what I'm saying is, like, when the milestone is that the Switch has outsold the Wii, that's a lot because they're different markets. Like, the Wii did this by appealing to what they call blue ocean strategy, which is, we're not going to really care about the hardcore. They tried having Call of Duty. They tried having this stuff, but it wasn't that sold. It was Wii Fit. It was Wii Sports. It was casual stuff. It was a lot of shovelware, a lot of great games. That we had a fantastic catalog.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I would love to see it come back. But the Switch did something interesting. The Switch appealed to the casuals and the mainstream gamer as well.
Yeah, the fact that Brawl stayed on, Smash Brothers stayed on, on Nintendo. That was a huge subculture.
Nintendo revealed like the best-selling games on the Switch a couple weeks ago, and I was actually shocked. Like number one wasn't surprising, but the amount of copies it sold shocked me. It was Mario Kart 8 or Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which was a game that was not for the Switch. It was for the Wii U. Failed on the Wii U. Almost 60 million copies. Like that one game on the Switch, Mario Kart 8, has outsold every version of The Witcher 3 that has ever been made. All together. That's insane. That's insane. But no, congratulations to Nintendo. I think there's going to be some more records that fall. I think eventually, will it meet the PlayStation 2's lifetime sales of 150? Probably not, but it'll come close.
Nintendo has not said what's after the Switch, right? Like, I think there are rumors of an updated Switch, maybe a little bit better hardware, but nothing new.
A year ago, I would have said there's no rumbling, but a little later, I think there's rumbling. Sources indicate that Nintendo's already well on their way to working on the successor. But the problem is, but you have to understand, if Sony creates a successive machine, it doesn't sell quite as well. They have a lot of stuff to fall back on. Microsoft, I'm of the opinion, I think this might be it for the Xbox. I think they might be transitioning to a software provider.
Yeah.
But Nintendo, in the old days, Nintendo would have iterative machines. They would have a home machine, and they'd have the portable machine. They'd have the Game Boy, the DS, whatever. So if one didn't sell well, the other one did. They don't have that anymore. So again, their succession plans have not always worked. So a lot is riding on this. Nintendo's doing great. Last year, Tom Cruise came out with Top Gun Maverick, broke all records. Doesn't mean Fallout was going to make the same records. So not Fallout, Dead Reckoning.
Right.
So if Nintendo creates a machine that is so drastically different, it repels people. They have a lot to lose, a lot. They can't just rest on their laurels. They're just not. I mean, now that they have movies, now that they're into the movie business, that might help them. But I don't know. It's interesting. This is going to be a very interesting generational change for Nintendo. Probably the most important they've ever done. Really, it's kind of insane.
They really need to find, and they're seeing success, but they need to keep seeing success in whichever way they kind of navigate. So
they've done something that they've only done. The last time Nintendo was able to do this was in the 1980s, where they defined a generation based on software. Even in the 1980s, the NES was nowhere close to the most powerful hardware, not even close when it came out. But yet through blood, sweat, and tears and tenacity and good development, and let's just say maybe some questionable proprietary
business
legal
ethics?
Restrictions. Yeah, business ethics that would probably not fly today. But by doing that, though, they created the gaming industry.
Yep.
Which, by the way, served them well until it didn't. And now it's serving them well until it doesn't. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, so speaking of serving well until it doesn't, let's talk real quick about TCL's new phone. Yeah.
Yay!
TCL is not really everyone's first name that comes when you talk about cell phones. They've always been, I guess, one of the better budget phones out there. But let's face it, the media, myself included, we like talking about the Samsungs and the Apples. They're the fun phones to talk about. But the phones that people are walking around with, people buy these things, and they're pretty common.
I'll say this. I feel really sad that people who go to Hollywood don't get to experience like the Grom's Chinese theater. It's now the TLC Chinese theater because the company purchased the Chinese theater from them a long time ago. Did not know that. But I'll say this. I have 3 TCL TVs in my house. TCL makes a fantastic budget TV. And by the way, if you're really cheap, it makes a fantastic computer monitor. Yeah, no, seriously, TCL TVs have PC mode. They're basically monitors.
I think we have one TCL in the house, and we actually do use that as a monitor. Now that you mention it,
yeah. They're really good. They're really good. I mean, they're like Vizio. They have the power of having this gigantic manufacturing company behind them to make a very good, cheaply made but functioning, really good functioning display. Like I get better performance on my $150 TCL 32 inch than I do my 75-inch Sony TV. But
So
no,
so
the reason.
so this is they're putting NXT paper display. So I'm guessing this is like e-ink, like colored e-ink on phones.
Yeah, it's like a colored ink with I think higher was it higher contrast. Um, Before we started, I told you I had just gone to the eye doctor, and as someone who has light sensitivity issues, I'm a big fan of e-ink. I'm a huge fan of e-ink. I'm always exploring, trying to find like my hunt. If anybody out there is listening, if you know of a good e-ink monitor that doesn't cost way too much, let me know. But like I still think it's going to happen. Like we see e-ink pop up in strange places. We see it pop up in like OLED monitors. We see it pop up in cars. We see it pop up in e-readers. I played with an e-ink reader. I won't say the brand because it's Chinese, but I played with like a 5-inch e-ink reader last week, and it was interesting. Like there is a market for something that doesn't burn your eyeballs. And I'll say this, and this is very important that I say this. If you look up, does looking at a cell phone hurt my eyes? You will see stories of how it doesn't. Doctors say there's no evidence. There's lots of evidence that it hurts your eyes. There's just nothing conclusive that says it will hurt your eyes.
There's nothing conclusive, but if you overlay a graph of when monitors and PCs, like when they started taking off, and you could look at that little bar graph there, chart, whatever, and then you look at the rate of nearsightedness or farsightedness, they line up pretty good. They line up pretty good.
It's like tracing a drawing. But the fact of the matter is there are ways around this. Like you can get if you're going to read a lot of stuff like books and stuff, get a dedicated e-ink reader, right? But you read paper in dark light, it's going to hurt your eyes. Just you got to moderate, you got to hydrate. But for cell phones, I think I would say, Ben, you got to blink multiple times. But I would say cell phones in particular are the most read devices on the planet. I think we look at cell phones as an extension of our bodies. And I think like I was actually shocked how much, like when I was flying a couple months ago, how much I enjoyed watching movies on my cell phone. Like I didn't realize I would, prefer it some ways. It just happens. It's with you all the time. And going back to the Switch for a second, going back to the Nintendo Switch, I think that's one of the reasons that console's so successful is that it goes with you. Like people like that idea. And so the idea is we have seen like Frankensteins of e-ink versus LCD panels. But I think the reason I sent this to you is because, slow news day. But second of all, I think it's an interesting hybrid. I think they're the first mainstream company to sort of play with this idea. I don't know how adopted. You're not going to see Apple do this.
No.
Like the closest Apple did to innovating this was like blue light filtering. I think they might have been the first ones to like really adopt it. But I don't know. I'm interested in trying it. I want to see it. Color e-ink tends to be poor, but it's an emerging market. But I would love the idea of a cell phone having an e-ink module or an approximation, because sometimes, I don't. Have you ever done this? Have you ever looked at your phone at night and I know your eyes aren't that bad, but like and you look at the light and it hits you and it's too bright. Because you're looking at a lamp.
I say that my eyes are not too bad because I had lasers. If you remember, 2 years ago, I had lasers.
Science. I have science eyes.
Yes, but I will say that my phone. I will say that a little trick out there for anyone who didn't ask for it. You can actually set, at least this is on iPhone, maybe you can do something like that on Android as well, that when I press my power button 3 times, I enable a zoom, and that zoom filter, Nathan, it's an overlay that's slightly dimmed, like opaque. I forget exactly what the word is, but if you turn down the darkness, you turn down the brightness all the way, and you turn on that zoom, it's actually almost near pitch black on the screen. Like, I do have to do that to, kind of ease, either looking at when you're not supposed to, like in a movie theater, or at night when your eyes just, really can't focus. Having the ability to turn it down even darker than completely dark is very good.
Well, I was going to say this, and this is not necessarily like a condemnation of the phones or anything, but there have been studies coming out. There was a really big one that came out a week ago about the link between like developmental, what's the word I would look at? Appropriated. delays in children who spend a lot of their time on cell phones and tablets. I can attest that I've seen this happen in real time. And I think I'm not a Kennedy. I'm not going to link autism to cell phone usage. But I will say this. If you understand how pixels work, which you do, and refresh rates, there's a reason why your eyes feel better if you watch high refresh rates.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they feel better if you look at, high resolution. Pixels vibrate, they dance, they're doing the cha-cha. And what happens is, whether you know it or not, your retinas and everything, they move. They can see what you can't see. Your eyeballs can become exhausted. That sort of it can stimulate like undue brain activity on a developing mind, and it can cause things like attention deficit. And I think the problems that we see are going to be a million times worse if we don't recognize this and say, this probably isn't that healthy to do it all the time. We need to implement screen breaks. We need to implement versions like when
limits.
When that's what. Again, China's doing it. Korea does it. Other places do it because they're not beholden to the manufacturers the way we are. And I'll say this: when the pandemic was happening and schools were starting to really, really invest in Chromebooks and PCs and iPads and all that stuff, one thing I've never heard any discussion about, nothing, has been safety screens about this sort of thing. It doesn't even come up. It's not, because again, you look up the data, and I think that's the theme of the show today, is don't believe the data.
Do your own research. Yeah.
Do your own research. But that will bring you down some really weird holes. You got to be really careful. If you're going to go do your own research, bring a friend and bring a lifeline. They'll pull you back. Did you know aliens exist? No, but what I was going to say is that, but again, I'll say this. I love my iPhones. I love my screens. I love everything. My friends know how obsessed I am about trying to get the perfect screen. But I'll say this. Looking at a screen all day is bad for you.
Yeah.
Take breaks, set settings. Once your eyes go, they're gone. Like, you ain't getting them back. So hydrate, keep your thing. And if I don't know if e-ink's a solution, but it's definitely, we're thinking in the right direction.
Where I would love to see e-inks, and this is probably never going to happen in a cell phone, but I would be curious, like, if a cell phone manufacturer, because Apple and Samsung, they always kind of wonder, what do we do with the back of our phones? Do we put a fingerprint reader? Do we put a glass back? Do we put a metal back? I'm wondering if someone down the line will put an e-ink reader on the back of your phone so that you can flip it over and read or something like that.
I thought I saw one of those. Yeah, like
they might have.
That would be interesting. That would be interesting, or maybe we'll have dual plane or like multi-plane technology that will allow us to have different versions. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. It's going to be interesting when because
it's weird, Nathan, because like e-ink is the exact opposite of what technology is all about. It is like, when we talk about screens and televisions, CES is coming up. We're going to start talking about a lot of that stuff. It's like, what gets the most headlines is, check out this new 16K TV with 8,000 refresh rate, and it's going to be, so much brightness, so much of that, so much of this. Like, all of that is like the opposite of e-ink, where, hey, look, e-ink, it looks kind of like paper, and it's really easy to see,
I think e-ink and I think developing vision technologies are actually not like TVs. I actually think they're closer to like chemicals you put in your house. Like back in the 50s and 40s, we had asbestos, we had lead paint, and it was great. It was insulated your house.
I don't think the e-ink people want you comparing their product to asbestos.
I think they do. Because everybody said they were safe. Everybody said asbestos was safe. Everybody said lead was safe. It was used commercially everywhere until it wasn't, until, it will kill you. And we have spent the last 50 years trying to strip that crap out. Everybody's telling me the LCD screens are safe. Everybody's telling me IPS is safe, but they're really not. What e-ink does, e-ink represents sort of an evolution, right? A safer evolution. Maybe not the result everyone wants, but it means we're thinking about it. We're thinking about, how do we do these things that are so important and crucial in our lives? Like, we're going to have cell phones, we're going to have computers, but how can we do it in a way that doesn't damage us? And that's why I think, it may not be sexy. But at the end of the day, you won't get lung cancer. Yeah, it's important. And I again, I'm not trying to condemn your screen. But take a break.
Yeah.
Take a break. And then,
for sure. Speaking of learning important lessons, our last story here, and then we're going to wrap up, is YouTube teaching important lessons to little content creators. Yeah, and it's almost like if you get a speeding ticket, you can go to class and you can get the speeding ticket, the points removed from your license and all that good stuff. YouTube apparently has had enough of YouTube will waive a creator's content violation warning if they attend a class. And Nathan, you of course run Popzara. We here at Computer America run Computer America. Fun fact. But I have received 3, I think, content violations over the course of like the past 6 years.
We gave up. We gave up on YouTube. A while ago.
And all of them, I will say right now, all of them are from Spotify. Spotify is atrocious. I use their logo, something like this. We're talking about YouTube. We show the YouTube logo. We'll be doing a story about Spotify, and they'll flag us for stealing something that they had. We're a news organization. I've explained that to YouTube many, many times, and they still content strike us over Spotify. And every time I submit hey, you got this wrong, they send back going, no, we really didn't. So shut up. And, that video is pretty much useless to you. But I digress.
I don't think it's people doing it. I think it's their algorithm. I think it's auto-generated for the most part.
It clearly isn't people, because people, I refuse to believe, are that dumb. It has to be not people. Yeah.
Years ago, this whole thing started from a woman who posted a picture of her baby singing to Prince, right? And that was years ago, and it's evolved into something else. And it's here's the thing. The reason I sent this to you isn't because I think this is a great idea. I'm laughing at YouTube for this. They want to scold you with videos. No, thank you. I won't use YouTube. Like, I'm not a content creator. I get why they do it. A lot of people make money, but there are other ways to sell your soul. But I'll say this: YouTube is probably going to start facing. They undoubtedly will. At some point, someone will figure it out, and they will create a competitor. And I think they know who the competitor is. TikTok? And I think you know who it is too. No. TikTok is not a competitor to YouTube in that way. It's a competitor in a certain way, but it's not competitor in the way I think YouTube understands it to be. Like, TikTok is very popular. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I actually think when you actually look at a dedicated video hosting platform, there's been some signs that, for example, I think it's going to be Twitter, and I think it's going to be X. And what's happening is, like, what's going to happen is that YouTube started off, anybody can post, anybody can do it. It's a free for all.
Yeah.
And you had some horrible things on there, some hateful things, and sure enough, but moderation at some point becomes exclusionary, when it becomes, we're going to put your information here. Right. We don't agree with it, but we're going to host it there because you can have your audience. And then it became, we don't agree with your information, so we're going to boot you. And YouTube has clearly showed a preference for people who can pull in bigger numbers by doing like mainstream antics, like for whatever it is, like Mr. Beast, for example. I know we talked about him, like things like that. That's the way it is. But when you have smaller ones, I mean, I have tons of YouTube people that I talk to all the time. They get demonetized for any reason. They say the wrong thing. It's not even a music spot. They don't even know, because it's like the old Google thing. Like, I know you want to know, but we can't tell you why. So the problem is, this is their way out of it. They're like, well, we're not going to strike you. We're gonna give you this lifeline. We want you to stay.
The only way I would agree with this is, and again, this is coming from my personal experiences. If at the end of the course, someone from Google called you and said, do you understand why? And I can talk back to them and say, no, I don't. You guys are wrong. But that will never happen. It's just them making you watch a video, and you have to hopefully absorb the lesson.
This is what they did with alcoholics in California. Like, when I lived in California, they would make alcoholics watch videos, right? Not that I did this, but then it clearly didn't work, because I remember watching TV when I lived out in Los Angeles, and I would always see Mickey Rooney show up on TV doing PSAs, because he would get publicly intoxicated so much they would make him do commercials talking about
community
the poisons.
Service, of course.
Community service, but what a way to go! But what I'm saying is that this is both insulting and patronizing in a way that I think hopefully it gets shamed out of existence. But the idea is that, well, you're gonna watch this video. We're gonna take out the strike. We're gonna do this. We want you to stay, but we're not gonna really explain it. because what's going to happen is it's because this doesn't even bring up content violations through what's the word, subject matter. It's one thing to say you got to strike because of music, or you got a DMA, or you got a takedown, but what happens if you don't happen to agree with the subject du jour? Like what happens if I have a difference of opinion with the YouTube moderators or something? This doesn't apply to that. And think about this, Ben. We saw your video where you talked about how much you prefer Intel over AMD. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to strike your video. But
luckily, that hasn't happened yet. On that subject matter.
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but we don't know what the subject matter is.
So you think the clearer and I can safely say the clearer and more lax hands-off moderation that X is promising, you think could give rise to a bigger audience on X for videos?
I'll say this, and I apologize for anybody who thinks what I'm about to say is inarticulate. Okay, this is going to come out wrong, but I got to say it. I think content moderation should be like abortion. Safe, legal, and rare. Like, I think
that's quite an analogy. Yeah, no, but, I agree.
But hear me out. Like, if I'm an adult, I don't need you to tell me what to listen to or to watch. I can make that. I promise you, if you're listening, I can do a better job of discerning what is harmful to me and what is more entertaining to me than anybody at YouTube. You don't know me. You don't know my limitations. Oh, you think, what about the children? Well, they have parents. You are not their parents. Now, if the videos are gated, if it's 18 or over, that means you met the threshold, no 18-year-olds allowed. Honestly, Google, you have ways of banning those people. They have this stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't care. You don't get to decide what I get to watch. And I think
so. The only thing I will say,
the platform that offers that,
yeah. The only thing I will say is that Twitter, if it does become as big as YouTube, I don't see how they don't become
not as big, but different.
Well, still, like YouTube and I just look up these numbers. These are from February of this year. They get about 271,000 hours of video every day. YouTube gets 3.7 million new videos. That's about 271,330 hours of video a day. There is no chance that, moderation of people are ever going to do that. It's going to have to come down to an algorithm.
I don't want to just say it out of untoward. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Whether you agree with Elon Musk or not, I think he's recognized the potential for the platform to be a competitor. You saw just last month, he's now giving profit sharing with creators. That never happened before on Twitter or X, what do you want to call it. I don't watch him. I don't care about him, but you saw what happened with the presidential debates. At Fox News do a GOP debate, it got 13 million people watching. You had Tucker Carlson. What was his name? Tucker. Tucker. Yeah, he was on YouTube. He was on Twitter with former President Trump. 200 million people.
To be fair, 13 million cable subscribers, that's like 105% of cable subscribers. That's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah, but that's traditional media, which exists, right?
Yes.
But you have a platform like Twitter that was not known for serving this type of clientele. Like, it just wasn't a video platform. And now it's emerging. And if you think about it, that may be what Musk was looking at. How do you leverage this existing user base? That's so. Let's be honest. When you look at social media, they all have their purpose. Instagram is butts and tits. You have Facebook, which is marketplace and selling. You have grandma's posters. But with Twitter, you always had the conversation. And you saw Facebook try to replicate that with Threads. It failed, didn't work. You had 100 million people sign up. No one uses it. Like Twitter, for better or for worse.
I know that they wanted to rush Threads out because they saw a moment of opportunity. But man, how do you not have some of the most basic features like trending?
Exactly. Like it's if it was, people say, oh, it's easy to copy Twitter.
Apparently not.
That's like, oh, it's easy to get a nuclear weapon. It's never happened, so it's not easy. So what I'm saying is Twitter, if not Twitter, then you have all these YouTube competitors that just try to do what YouTube does. Like Vimeo tried, Rumble tried, they all try, but they failed. Why? Or they have micro successes. But with Twitter, you actually have an engaging platform that I think people could happen.
So I do think X's transformation and by
it's
the way,
hard for me to say X. It's so hard.
Everywhere I see X, they always put in brackets, formerly known as Twitter. Because people still don't associate X with Twitter, but everywhere, like I'm seeing X's transformation. Computer America, we have an article from it's like 3 or 4 years old by now, about super apps and what they are, where they come from, and kind of what the purpose of them is. They've never been popular in the United States. I am not even hopeful. Like I honestly, I'm in America. I really don't care about super apps. I am curious to see what Elon Musk can do with X to turn it into a super app, because it's just something that has never been really wanted by the American public. So
I don't think it will be a super app. I think its core service, right? Its core service will be dialogue as well.
Well, he's trying to make it payment and video and a shopping and a lot of other things too. So he's trying.
Well, he's trying, but I'm on board. I'm not a huge Elon Musk fan, but I'm on board that I think the changes he's brought to the platform have been necessary, and I think they've been disruptive. And maybe again, if you clearly don't like Elon Musk, then you're going to find the negativity and everything. If you go into any tech website right now, I won't even name one. Just go to any tech website. The top ranked tech website, there's going to be 5 negative Elon Musk stories. I get it. You don't like the guy, whatever. You throw your objectivity out the window. That's fine. But at the end of the day, he's monetizing the site in a way that Jack Dorsey never did. The site is running better than it's ever done. Okay, the negative X is stupid. Okay, no one wants to say X. I feel like I'm watching DMX. X going to give it to you. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, it's a better service. It's chaotic. Maybe that's why it's so much fun, because we don't know what's happening. But at the end of the day, no one's really leaving. Like the competitors suck. People are now getting paid.
I think with that might be way too loud. If it is, I apologize.
I love this X.
We can turn that down here. Okay, so but I think chaos. That's how he likes to operate. That's been proven time and time again. So, ladies and gentlemen,
with that, can't happen without chaos. I mean, it needs that sort of vulnerability.
That's how you get real innovation. Because if you play it safe, if you play it by the books, you're just gonna you're gonna fall by the wayside. So, with that being said, speaking of chaos and writing on chaos, Popzara.com. Once again, we'll have that in the show notes if you want to find out more. But ladies and gentlemen, that's about it for today. We're going to go ahead and wrap up the conversation there. Nathan, thank you so much for joining us. I know that you said it was a slow news day, but you made it a lot of fun. So don't worry about it. Ladies and gentlemen, ComputerAmerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, show notes included. And until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. We'll catch you then. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.